session, I just want to acknowledge the traditional landowners on the place we meet today, the Wurundjeri people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to Oxfam Trailwalker Melbourne 101 Night 2019. I'm Christophe Salem, the Events Fundraising Coordinator in Melbourne. You may have been bombarded by lots of emails from me and texts and all sorts of things, so apologies in advance, but it's from me. They can put a face to a morning email. Today we have some incredible speakers among us. We've got ambassadors, professionals in their field, and Oxfam staff who are ready to make you feel comfortable and prepared for the challenge ahead. So, all throughout the session today, we're going to have a mobile phone number on most of the slides, so you can text your questions in throughout the day, throughout the evening. So what we'll do is at the end of the evening, we'll be able to answer those as much as we can. Otherwise, we're going to post them on the website on tomorrow and then share that on the Facebook page as well. So many of you are probably already registered participants. Can I get a show of hands who's already registered? Oh wow, there are lots of you, that's fantastic. And has anybody walked Oxfam Trailwalker before? Nice. So we've got some pros among you. So I assume a lot of you are here to see the brand new trail, which is very exciting. And are there any people here that aren't registered already today? Oh, cool. Fantastic. We've got a great offer for you today, actually. If you register tonight, you all get free keep cups each. So that's good. Oxfam Trailwalker 2019 keep cups. So we're celebrating 20 years of Oxfam Trailwalker in Australia as well, and one of the best ways to celebrate is to have a brand new trail. So it's going to be really exciting. And also, because we are celebrating 20 years, it would be great if you could put forward any good newsworthy stories that you have gathered over the years. Whether it's an inspiring story or just something really entertaining, it would be great to be able to share that. So among us today, we've got these incredible experts, and I would like to introduce our first speaker. So here to speak about the incredible work that Oxfam does and where all your incredible fundraising has gone over the years and where it will go from March is from our Oxfam Oxfam Australia programs team, our India, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka portfolio manager, Minwa.
All right, cool. Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to see you tonight. Just before coming here, I was speaking with our team in Bangladesh, and when I shared with them, if you've ever been to Bangladesh, it's not a place where people like to walk around too much, actually. They prefer to catch other forms of transport. So when I told them that I was coming tonight to speak to people who are going to walk 100 kilometres to raise money for their work, they were so impressed and so encouraged and sent their best of luck. So I just want to share that with you. So I'm going to speak a bit about the work that we've been doing with the Rohingya refugee response, which probably many of you would have heard about in the news. It's something that I've been working on for about 10 years, and I actually lived in Bangladesh for 5 years. I worked directly with the teams, and I visited the response earlier this year, and I'll go back later next year as well. Many of you may know it's now the world's largest refugee camp, with over 700,000 people there. So just to share with you here, a bit of a map, and so you can see where Bangladesh is located. It's in between India and Myanmar, or Burma, as you'd like to call it. And where the refugees came from was just from this, that corner of Burma there. And they started crossing over to at the end of August in 2017. And they crossed over the Naf River, which is a wide river. It's probably about 5 times as wide as the Yarra, I think, and it's quite a fast-flowing river. And they crossed over into Cox's Bazar, which you can see in the southeastern corner on the map there. So it gives you a sense here of the journey that they all faced. It was 700,000 people crossed over in the space of 2 to 3 months. So it's one of the fastest movements of people that has been seen in recent history. I think as well, many of you know that the UN have called it tantamount to ethnic cleansing, which is one of the highest in terms of atrocities that the United Nations can label. So during this period, as you can see, as a result of a lot of atrocities and violence that were being committed, people were just getting whatever they could grab from their homes and coming over. And sadly, a lot of lives were lost in the process. There's been a recent report I was just looking at today where they're estimating that 43,000 children have lost one of their parents. So it's incredibly sad, and it's an overwhelming crisis. So this is what it looks like with a camp like this of over 700,000. It's like that just quite for just kilometres. And this is here showing what it looked like in a very early part of the response. And so Oxfam has a presence in Bangladesh, and we've been working with Rohingya in previous phases in history as well. And you may or may not know, but Oxfam is one of the leading responders to different emergencies around the world, such as this one. And so you can see here that within the first week when people arrived, because they didn't have anything, they needed water, of course, they needed food, they needed shelter, they needed clothing. And so Oxfam was there. It was quite incredible. We had international and national staff flown in within a week of people starting to cross the border. And at the time I was on the phone with the coordinator of the response, and it was just incredible to hear the progress they were making and just to see really Oxfam at its best. So within 3 weeks, I remember talking to Paolo, the coordinator, and within 3 weeks we're already reaching 100,000 people with water, with sanitation, like such as emergency latrines, also with food and shelter. So this is the type of work that your efforts will be going to support. And here this is just a deep hand tube well. Water is one of the biggest issues there. We're now, actually we've scaled up our response, we're now covering about 250,000 people. Okay, if anyone can guess what's at the bottom, this is a latrine, and if anyone can guess what's at the bottom of this latrine, well, yeah, that would be quite impressive. But this is where I go into the less glamorous side of my job at times, but this is the fecal sludge management part of the presentation. But actually, as you can imagine, it's a city which is now the 4th largest city in Bangladesh. So 700,000 people popping up overnight. You've got to provide them with services and things like latrines to stop the outbreak of disease in this kind of environment. And this is the type of latrines that we've been putting up. But underneath this latrine is actually tiger worms. So this is an innovation that we've been working on around the world, and which we've been trialling in Bangladesh, but they help to decompose the matter there. This is us as we're scaling up. So as the response is going longer, we're scaling up to do more longer-term solutions there. So this is, again, it's a very large pit, but I was quite excited by it. This is one of the largest fecal sludge. This will be the largest fecal sludge management treatment for the camps. It will be enough for 100,000 people, and they will be turned into biogas. So these are the kind of solutions which, you know, speaking with different people there, like the government as well as other agencies and the UN, that Oxfam is known for, that they've said that no other agency can do, and we're very proud of this work. This is just a slide, but I'll go through a bit quickly, but it's just to highlight some of the issues which women in particular face in the camps. It's quite a conservative and it's a very restricted environment. And you can see reading some of the quotes there and some of the difficulties that women face. So where women aren't because of different traditional practices. Women don't have free mobility to move outside, let alone to try to make a living. It's estimated that 1 out of 6 women are actually single mothers in the camps. So it's a very difficult situation for them. We have a large focus on them. So, for example, you can see the woman on the right who's got a sewing machine there, but as part of we distributed materials for the women so they can make their own culturally appropriate clothing. And we shared out vouchers so that this refugee woman here, she can get paid to do the tailoring. So it's also a livelihood, income generating opportunity for her as well. With that, I just wanted to share a story of Aishah, who we met earlier this year. She's a woman in her early 20s, and again, it's a sad story really with the crisis. She came over with her mum and 3 siblings. She's a family with 5 brothers and sisters there. Her father was an elderly man. He was not well, so he actually unfortunately died along the way. He was killed. And one of her older sisters remains in Myanmar. But the thing is that she was able to come over with her mum and with her siblings. She's had a very challenging period there. She was also actually abandoned by the father of her child. So for her, a woman like her, you can imagine inside the camps how difficult her life is. But there's a really nice turn to the story in that Aishah's just one of the many incredible women in the camps. So she's actually now working for us as a community health volunteer. So we've actually got hundreds of community health volunteers in the camp that work with us because, as you can imagine, in a camp so crowded, the risk of spread of disease is just enormous and life-threatening. So you can see her there on the left, and she's received training, and there's just beautiful quotes from her where she's talked about how proud she feels about being able to do something with her community. What she does is she goes around and she does meetings with other women in the camps, such as the ones here, and she educates them on the importance of hand washing and the kind of things like what are the signs of cholera, what do you need to do as a family in a neighbourhood to help prevent the outbreak of cholera. And also from there as well, sharing what are the concerns of the women and sharing those concerns and what are their priorities together with Oxfam and with other agencies working there so that we can program accordingly and in a way that meets their needs. So it gives you a sense of what the camp looks like during the monsoon, which is rough. The other part, which I just want to share for any of you, just encourage you, I think Oxfam does tremendous research and advocacy. So these are some of the 1 year on report was a report we did. We interviewed hundreds of households to make sure the voices of the refugees are getting out there. Also 1 year on, we did a collaboration with the Guardian newspaper to do quite a deep dive into what's happening. The bottom left corner, you can see a trip that we did with 8 members of Parliament of Australia from across the political spectrum to help raise awareness on this issue, to help together with the Government of Australia and the UN and others to advocate for actual, to not just try to do the humanitarian relief, but to look at what are the political situations that we need to put an end to this crisis. So I'll end there. Thanks for the opportunity, and I wish you all the best of luck. And anytime you want to know more about the work of Oxfam, then please contact our team and we'd be happy to provide it.
Thank you so much, Minhwa. Isn't it amazing to see where your money goes, and so specifically as well? That's amazing. I find it really inspiring to work with such an incredible organisation. So we're going to be working together to raise $3 million this year for those incredible, I keep saying incredible, I'm sorry, it is incredible, for these outstanding work that people are doing in programs in Oxfam. So I will just mention that we spoke earlier about the people that aren't registered. So if you would like to register a team tonight, you can go to the info desk and register, and you will get 4 free Keep Cups, which is all very wonderful and exciting. These are brand new for 2019, and you'll save the environment along with it. So what are you guys going to be doing in March? 29th of March. You and 750 teams and your 3 teammates are going to be on the starting line raring to go. You will be ready to walk the brand new 100k trail through Victoria's beautiful bushland. This is not a walk in the park, though. Make sure that you've already started training, and loads of you are pros. You know what you're doing. You've done it before, so I'm sure you're on top of this. This is one of the toughest endurance events in the world, and it's also one of the most rewarding. So it's going to be very exciting. We've got 700 volunteers supporting you, and you'll also have your amazing support crews as well. So I hope you've got some good pals among you to help you out along the way. And with every step, you're going to be tackling poverty, so that's fantastic. To ensure that you're feeling ready and supported, I'd like to introduce our next speaker. So to talk you through the brand new trail that I'm sure you all have been waiting for is our very talented and hardworking operations coordinator, Christophe Novak. Thanks.
Good evening. Yeah, as Crystal said, my name is Chris. I'm the event operations coordinator for our Melbourne Trailwalker event, and I'm very excited to introduce you to the new 2019 trail. So, Trailwalker in Melbourne exists since 2003, and there have been minor changes, but not as big as 2019. And I'm sure and hope that the people who signed up will enjoy walking in March, the trail, and hope I can also create some interest for people who think about signing up and are not sure yet. So it's not just a trail, which is new. The timing is also new. So traditionally we have 48 hours time to complete the 100 kilometres. In 2019, reduced it down to 36 hours. So you have to walk 100 kilometres within 36 hours. Psychologically, for people who've done that before, that might be a bit scary, but as it is a well thought through decision we made, so the majority of people definitely finishes within 36 hours. And apart from that, it also is in line with international trail walk events, which are around the 30 to 36 hour time mark. So if you look at the trail, it is in fact, to be precise, around 90% new. So you start in Emerald Lake, near the Puffing Billy train station, and then you walk out of Emerald, and after about 5-6 kilometres into the walk, you hit the single trail, the Sassafras Creek Trail, the Menzies Creek Trail, and the Woorolloc Creek Trail. And you walk along single trail through practically a corridor of temperate rainforest with nice little bridges, boardwalks, tree ferns, and native wildlife. So you walk along that single trail into Checkpoint 1, which is located in Mombolg in Baines Park, and then you continue your journey into Olinda. So the first 2 sections are single trail. It's quite technical. Yeah, it'll be exciting, but you'll be fresh at the start, so that shouldn't be a problem. The steepest section would be from section 1 to 2, where you walk up all the way to Dandenong Ranges, and then from checkpoint 2 to checkpoint 3, you walk downhill into Mount Evelyn, and these are the roughly 10% which are from still, which we incorporated into the trail from previous years. So for people who've done the walk previously, they should be familiar with Section 3. You also walked through Mount Evelyn Reserve, but it never was a checkpoint, so this time we're having a checkpoint there. And checkpoint 1 and 3 are the only checkpoints where you can't meet your support crew due to size and due to some logistical considerations we made. In Olinda, you can meet them for the first time, and then for the rest from checkpoint 4 onwards, you can meet your support crew. So you will have gone past Mount Evelyn Reserve by the end of Friday at the very latest. So we closed checkpoint 3 on the Friday at around 11 p.m. From memory. And then you walk into Lilydale, and the next checkpoint is Lilydale Lake. If there's still daylight, you have a nice scenic view onto the Dandenongs where you just walked over. And yeah, and the lake is also a beautiful setting for a checkpoint, so I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And then we slowly traverse some suburbs, and we walk along shared bike paths into Croydon Town Park. That's a checkpoint where you are able to set up a tent and have a little bit of a rest. So most people will walk that section in the dark, as well as section 6 into Donvale. When I say suburbs, it doesn't sound maybe appealing to some people, but you will be surprised how green and nice some of those areas are if you're not familiar with the trail already. So I would encourage you to also you know, check that those sections out during training. And well, then you head up north, checkpoint 6, the Mullam Reserve, where you soon hit the main Yarra Trail, and from that point onwards, you follow the main Yarra Trail into Fairfield Park via Westerfolds Park, where you, if the timing's right and the time of the day, you'll see some gangs of kangaroos, and then you walk through Warragul Parklands, through Heidelberg, and then into Fairfield. So I wouldn't recommend taking a selfie with an eastern grey kangaroo, but at kilometre 99 you have a great city view, and that's a great opportunity to do that. So that's a trail, 100 kilometres, Emerald Lake to Fairfield Park. And here, just quickly, the trail profile. So you'll have the technical section and maybe the most, well, the steepest section at the start, so you get the hills out of the way very quickly. And then from then onwards, it's flat with just minor little inclines. And yeah, we've taken out the last hill. Previously, in previous years, we had a nasty hill at kilometre 90. So we've taken it out, and I hope it helps to finish within 36 hours as well. Here's just a quick summary of what you can expect at checkpoints, where you can meet your support crew, except for checkpoint 1 and 3. But we've got first aid and water and toilets and check-in, check-out, and meet and greet marquees there. So that's all at every checkpoint. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, you have the opportunity to pitch a tent for a couple of hours at checkpoint 5 in Croydon. What we also have at various checkpoints is our allied health team, which are people, experts or volunteer students in podiatry, physiotherapy and massage. And here's just a summary. So checkpoint 3, 5, 6 and 7, we have our allied health teams, and you can receive some free treatment from them if you think you have sore muscles or blisters or the knee plays up, and they help you to get you through into the finish. For us, we are walking in the bush, in bushland, beautiful bushland, and people who've walked already Section 1 and 2 know what I'm talking about. Beautiful bushland, pristine, and we need to take care of that. And it applies to the entire 100 Ks, of course, but in particular the Section 1 and 2, we really want to make sure that we care for the environment and that we care for where we walk through. So practically, what it means, our aim is to walk in and leave the area in the same way as we found it, and practically leave no trace. You have a little leaflet in your walker map book, which has exactly those in there, what's on the slide here. So we just need your help and assistance with that, so that we can come back year after year. Yeah, that's it for me from the trail. I hope you became a bit more curious to checking out the trail. And now I'd like to introduce you to our Trailwalker ambassador, Jonathan Harper, from Team Tangle Feet. And he'll talk you through about tips and tricks, how to make it within 36 hours.
Thanks, Christophe. So as Christophe said, I'm from Team Tangle Feet. Between us, we've done 60 trail walks in Australia and also overseas. And so I just wanted to give some tips based on my experience over the last 10 years. 10 years ago, I was sitting here in Melbourne just much as you are before my first trail walker, which we did in 32 hours. A few years later, we did 24 and more recently 18 hours. What I'm going to do today is focus on the 32 to the 24 and some tips that might help you on that journey. And I will say the first thing you should do is have a look at the website. Lots of very good advice on a range of topics, and everything that I say will be consistent with that. So the first thing I'd do is have a training program that works for your team, and probably the biggest thing I'd encourage you to do is to start training early. March might seem a long time away, but it's about 19 weeks. And anything you do now will really pay dividends. Little bit of training now really helps. So whether it's a walk around the park at lunchtime, getting off the train a couple of stops early, walking up the escalators in the station instead of riding up, that all helps. Build that up over the Christmas period, and then you can extend that. My typical training routine is to walk home or part of the way home 15 to 20k once a week, and then do a long walk at the weekends, and typically try to get several 25k plus walks in. And if you haven't done it before, do try kind of 40k, maybe 40k to 50k walk is my advice. But start now. Second thing is don't get injured or get blisters. And that's slightly tongue-in-cheek, but the first thing to do is to get to the start line in one piece. And one of the critical components of that is to kind of stay fit and flexible while you're exercising. So whether it's Pilates, yoga, stretching, some of that is highly recommended as well. And in blisters, I'm fortunate I've not had serious blisters, but I've walked in teams where people have had very, very bad blisters, and I'd really recommend not getting them. So a couple of pointers. I think, first of all, if you're on a training walk and you feel a hot spot, stop and do something about it right then, because it's probably almost getting too late by the time you notice it. So put a Band-Aid on for that walk, work out what's causing it and how you're going to address that, whether it's, personally I'll wear 2 pairs of socks, it might be getting the right pairs of shoes, it might be taping your feet. But whatever it is that works, you need to do that early in your training routine and practice it on your training walks, and that's really important. A couple of guys in my first team got blisters within 5k, and it was very painful for me for 95k, I can tell you, but they might have a different view. The next point is to train on the course, which will help you form a plan for your timings. As Christophe said, the first 3 sections are quite tricky, quite technical if you haven't been used to that kind of walking before. And then after that, after Mount Evelyn, there's quite a lot of bike tracks and flatter, easier walking. But do train on the course. That'll give you an idea of your speed, time to checkpoints, which is pretty important. The other thing that I'd recommend you think about in terms of the plan is planning where you stop and how long you stop for. It is so easy to go into a checkpoint, as we did in the first few times. You sit down, you grab something to eat, you start talking to your support crew, time just flies. So in the 32-hour event, we took about 8 hours of stops, including a short sleep. In the 24-hour event, we got that down to about 3, and 18 is about 1. But you can save much more time more easily by monitoring your checkpoints and keeping them fairly tight, rather than all the effort of kind of actually going faster in between. So manage your checkpoints. Teamwork. It often seems obvious that you go as fast as the slowest person. You all have to check in together, but it really is the case. So out there on the course, really support whoever's slowest in the team, whoever's struggling. And that may not be the person that's fittest in your training. Sometimes the last 50K, one of you might start feeling stronger. And you really have to support the person at the back. Don't walk off with them, leave them in the dark at 2 in the morning, a kilometre behind the rest of the team, because it's not very pleasant. So support your team and particularly help with the mental challenge, because it is a mental challenge for certainly the last 20 to 30K. Hydration and food strategy, there's lots of information and guides on the website. I think the important thing there is to just work out what you're going to eat before the event, try the food on your practice walks. But an important point is you can underhydrate and you can overhydrate. So get used to monitoring what you're drinking and make sure you drink sufficient. So we did have one team member in one event who didn't really drink much at all for the first 30 to 40K. We didn't really realise. He realised he wasn't going to the toilet. Tried to take on a lot of water after that, but just couldn't take the water on. It got to the point where he was just dehydrated and had to pull out. We've also had a team member that pulled out in the kind of later stages of the event. Just got very, very tired, a bit disorientated, wasn't eating. We hadn't realised. Eventually he pulled out, and after the event we realised that he actually had food in his backpack. In his mind he was saying, I'm going to keep that to the end so I can have something to eat at the end. Well, it wasn't much point keeping it, but we didn't really realise that he wasn't eating it. The support crew are really important. They'll help and encourage you during the event, bring you supplies, food, support. So prep them, they will encourage you. It helps for the support crew and you if you've got very clear instructions and a plan of where you'll be and when, how long you want to stay at each stop, roughly, and they can encourage you and move you on when you'd probably far rather be sitting for longer in that nice comfy deck chair. In terms of the final couple of points, rest before the day, I kind of basically taper off quite a lot over the last couple of weeks. I've seen people who you get kind of so excited about doing the event, you're training right up to the event before. You don't want to waste all your training by getting a niggle or an injury in the week before the event, or that little hotspot turns into a blister with a week to go and you haven't got time to get rid of it. So I'd encourage you, once you get close to the event, taper down and you'll really enjoy the event and you'll enjoy the second half a lot more. And a final point, along with enjoying it, is probably the advice is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So whatever you've done in training, do on the day. So whatever socks you've worn, shoes you've worn, gear you've worn, water you drink, food you eat in training, do that on the day. And I know that's good advice because I've ignored it myself on a couple of occasions, and it just doesn't work on the day. So in my case, I had a certain way of taping my feet. I got really enthusiastic before one of the events and put a bit more tape on, and that just ended up being counterproductive, and it was worse than if I'd done what I do normally. So don't do anything different on the day. But you can do it. The success rate of getting to the end, both for the teams and for individuals, is very high, and I'm sure with appropriate training, you'll be very successful. A couple of words on fundraising, because we've also done quite a lot of fundraising over the years for Oxfam. It really is important not to lose sight of what the event is actually for, and it's to support the wonderful work that Oxfam does, and we've seen some fantastic examples of it earlier. There's also a lot more information on the website. For any of you that want to look a bit further, I can recommend Peter Singer's book, The Life You Can Save, which is really inspiring. And a key point in that book is that people's lives can be saved by very simple, affordable interventions. And what resonates with me with Oxfam is that a lot of the work that they do is very sustainable in the long term, so whether it's water taps, boreholes, farming, and it really does resonate. As does thinking about when you're walking along, what it would be like to have to walk for 4 hours just to get water for your family for a day. And you might think about that on the trail. The good news is that small amounts add up, so you don't have to be the highest fundraiser. All the kind of $5, $10, $20 donations all add up and help us collectively get to that $3 million target. And I found in the past some of my team have been a bit nervous about fundraising and asking people for money. But once people realise what the money's for and the cause that it's for, they're exceptionally generous. There's masses of ways of making fundraising. There are a lot of support information on the website again, whether it's chocolate sales, barbecues at Bunnings, cakes for morning tea, collection boxes, any of those things. I encourage you to try, find out what works for you, and help at least make the minimum donation and hopefully a little bit more. In my case, I work in an office in the city, and I sell lots of fundraising chocolates. Sold about 11,000 bars last year, I think, which is probably detrimental for the health of the office, but it's been extremely supportive for Oxfam. The other thing that I do personally is send lots of emails to literally everybody I know, and probably more. Nobody's going to donate money unless you ask them, but if you do send an email and make it as personal as you can, then people will donate. And that's been very successful. If you're in a company, also you can inquire about matching donations just to boost that fundraising. The personal touch is critical in that, so saying thank you. So I'm very grateful now that 10 years ago when I started sending emails, I followed up after the event and said thank you and how much we'd raised, because all those people have been donating to me for 10 years. So do say thank you, because you might have another 10 years of Oxfams to raise money for. And then the other thing is that direct personal touch is typically more successful than a kind of general broadcast email. So that's just some thoughts based on my experience. I wish you all very good luck both in the physical side of the event and training, and also in fundraising. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Just a quick word about one of our sponsors. We are really grateful to our sponsors. I know it seems a bit cheesy to talk about them, but you know what? They donate so much money to support Oxfam Trailwalker. So I just want to give a nod to PowerShop. PowerShop provides energy across Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland as well. That was a very English way of saying Queensland, wasn't it? Queensland. And they're a pretty retailer as well. They are using Australasia's largest 100% renewable generator and use wind farms and hydro assets. They also have been awarded they've been certified 100% carbon neutral and been awarded Greenest Power Company by Greenpeace for the last 3 years. So they're a very ethical, I suppose you could say, ethical power company as much as they can be. And since 2016, they've partnered with Oxfam and helped raise $145,000. So we're very grateful to them. Thank you, PowerShop, for all your support. Yay! Is that someone from PowerShop? So this year we're going to raise $3 million, as we've already mentioned. We're going to chip at it, and we know we can get to there. Jonathan's tips were amazing. They're fantastic. So a little bit often, speak to everyone. I'd like you guys to have a real good think about what would work for you and your network as well. So whether you work in the building trade, you've got lots of suppliers or customers, maybe you could get a swanky Paddy Palin 2019 t-shirt, which shows off my bump really well with the little mountains. It's cute. And you could get them to put logos around the t-shirt for $100 here, $500 here, and get their advertising out there. You could have a movie night, go to your local cinema and book a really cool movie night for your friends and family. Just have a think of what you can offer people and how that would work in fundraising, and have fun with it. It is a really exciting thing to do once you get into it. So there's a few tips up on the board, and you can also pop on the website as well. We have some VIP incentives, as the older people that have done it a few times will know. If you put your target to $2,500, you get your team name on your bib. If you put your target to $5,000, you get your personal name and your team name on your bib, so people can personally cheer you along. If you put your target to $10,000, it's a non-obligatory target, but we know you can smash it. You get this fantastic silver buff, which is very highly sought after. I haven't earned it, I'm just modelling it, unfortunately. I need to earn it. I know someone who has, Jonathan Harper. And if you put your target to $15,000, you get a silver buff, you get a VIP gold buff, and you get 4 free keep cups, you get free t-shirts, 2019 official t-shirts, you get VIP entry to celebration night, and lots of other goodies. So it's well worth trying to go for the 15,000. I'm delighted to announce we actually have some teams that have already set their fundraising targets to $10,000. So thank you to Morlandia Returns. Are there any of you here today? Oh, you're out fundraising. Non-alcoholic beer, good name. And Team Physio Life as well, so they've all set their target to $10,000. And we have 2 VIP teams who have set their target to $15,000. So thank you so much to Jonathan Harper's team at Tangle Feet, yay, for setting the target to that. And Delplant Gen X Warriors as well, thank you guys. Right, so have you guys got all your gear yet? Don't shout out all at once. We have 20% off Paddy Palin today at the Paddy Palin store, where you can get your brand new t-shirt or you can get some gear. And obviously on your seats you have a little piece of paper. So if you would like to go into the draw to win $400 of Paddy Palin vouchers, feel free to tick where you'd like to put your target up to and increase your target, and then drop that off to the glamorous Maddie in the back there, who's modelling a bucket you can drop it into, and we will draw the winner tomorrow and post that on the Facebook page, but contact the winners directly as well. So it's obligation free to increase your target, and you may as well go in. Also, you can have if you're looking for new team members and you haven't got your team fully together, we can host a small 101 night with myself or another Oxfam representative to come into your workplace, your uni, your sporting club, and have your very own mini 101 night to try and drum up some support for you. We also offer little pop-up stands as well. So we did a little one on the Telstra foyer, which was fun, and people were coming through and getting some free chockies and asking about Oxfam Trailwalker. So if you're stuck for teammates, then we're very happy to support you and help you out there. Okay, so before we read out your questions, I'd just like to invite Christophe back to the stage again to acknowledge our stakeholders.
Yes. Is that working? Yes. So when you're on the trail, you see the checkpoints, you see staff and volunteers, but who you don't see, but who are people who are incredibly important to us, are our safety stakeholders. And we're incredibly lucky to have safety stakeholders which are very highly skilled and qualified and happily supporting Trailwalker, the course and the event. And we've got two here tonight, and I would like to introduce you to Kevin Poyle from the SES and Brian Hallard from the CFA to come up onto stage. They add so much value to Trailwalker and the safety of the event. They've been around since 2003, since the beginning of Trailwalker Melbourne, and it's time to say thank you in front of an audience to them and acknowledge their incredible work. So Brian and Kevin, would you like to say something about why you have joined Trailwalker and why you are happily helping out us year after year?
Thanks, Christophe. Start off with Brian. Thanks, Kev. That really was a disaster. Kevin, I'm a CFA volunteer, and I got approached by Oxfam and at the outset of Oxfam in Victoria to review and set up a trail. And before I got involved with Oxfam, I made some inquiries about the organisation. I'd heard about Oxfam, I didn't know what they did. And after half an hour talking to one of the executives at Oxfam, I got behind it, and I'm the safety coordinator for the event to make sure that all the participants get through without any dramas, along with my colleague Kevin and his team. The first event went really full. It was quite challenging, but we got through it. And we found that Oxfam is an incredible organisation, and the CFA volunteers that work under me for the event are more than happy to do it, because you've seen the slides tonight, you've heard testimony of what Oxfam does with the money it raises, and I know from inquiring that most of the money that Oxfam raises gets there. So you can rest assured that we will look after your welfare and your safety in the event. And we will do that as long as we can do it, and along with Kevin and our other organisations, Vic Police, Councils, Parks Victoria, wherever we run or walk. It's a walk, by the way, it's not a race. He'll tell you about that later. So it's a pleasure to be involved with an organisation as credible as Oxfam. So thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Very similar, so I've been involved at the very start of Oxfam, out on the response team, picking up the people that couldn't go any further or had some sort of injuries, and then led the way through to the Event Control Centre. I am an SES volunteer, 36 years volunteering with the State Emergency Service. And I still get the joy and pleasure of organising teams and putting teams out into the field. Some advice as we go through when you participate in the event: if something happens, you purely make the phone call. The telephone numbers are on your bibs to be able to contact. Just stay calm, collective. We will have emergency response of whatever type of nature, depending on the incident, to be out there to support you or pick you up or whatever the case may be. everybody thinks in the way of we'll make a phone call and we'll have someone there in 5 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever. That'd be fantastic in the ideal world. There may be something else going on that might be a little bit more critical than what your understand is. We'll prioritise that and send the response team out. This year will be fantastic. I'm assuming the telephone will not ring. Do you reckon? For the simple reason we have the ability of this year for the support crews to be able to pick up people a fair way along the track. Which is fantastic. Will stop our people have to put them out. But if anything does happen, we have the support there to be able to support you out in the field. Thanks, Christophe.
Thank you, Kevin and Brian. And as a thank you, you're not just getting some stage time tonight, you also get an Oxfam hamper and a certificate of appreciation as a sign, as a big thank you. Okay, thank you. Would you like to?
Thank you. Enjoy your hampers, and thanks for all your support. So we're going to answer your questions now. And I'd like to invite to the stage another, I suppose, Oxfam expert. She has run Oxfam Trailwalker and completed it before. I'd like to introduce my manager, the very glamorous Anna Weems, the National Events Fundraising Manager. Pardon? 2 matches. Sorry, I don't know what you're saying. Oh, 2 pages of questions. Oh, wow, you've got loads of questions. Fantastic. Okay, so let's get cracking. Right, when will the map books be available? And why only the team leader gets it? To Christophe?
Well, that's a good question. I've got mine here. And most people who sign up and have collected their packs, they'll have it right now as well. Why is it only the team leader? So we have that available on the website as well for download. Yeah, I guess from experience, one map book usually is enough if the team trains together, and obviously they're also working together on the event.
Okay, thank you. Any safety concerns on the new trail, Christophe?
Well, I have to have concerns sometimes because I'm also involved in the risk management plan of the event. Obviously, I'm monitoring and assessing all the sections and the trail, and I know that there are some trickier sections which will require more attention, so that's obviously the single trail. But again, with our safety stakeholders, with our contingency plans and our solid risk management plan, we feel very confident that we've got it sorted. Other than that, I can't think of any risk areas which would be out of the ordinary. I'm convinced it's going to be a fantastic event.
Cool. A question to Anna. Just a question about the minimum fundraising amount and why that has increased this year.
So the minimum fundraising amount this year is $1,600, and the average amount that teams usually raise is $3,500. So when you divide the minimum by 4, it's really a very achievable amount to raise, and when you look at all of the good work that Oxfam does, it's really going to an amazing cause. So the reason that it's achieved is so that we can get more of the funds to the people that need it most. And that's what we want to do, that's what we're all here for, and we want to raise the goal of $3 million for Oxfam Australia. So that's why we've just bumped up the minimum just to $50 more each to try and reach that goal.
Thank you, well answered. How are the start times allocated? Do you want to go for that? Okay, go for it.
Yep, so this year we're aiming to have 750 teams on the trail. That's rather a lot of people. And so how we organise it is we stagger the starts so everyone's not going off all at the same time and causing congestion on the trail. So we allocate the start times randomly, and you do have an opportunity to choose your start time if you can enter a fundraising competition and raise an amount of $3,800 by the 1st of February.
I think it's mid-February, but sorry, it's on the website.
So you have to raise $3,800 by a date in February. You'll be sent an email, and if you're able to do that, then you will be able to choose your own start time. After that, they are allocated randomly, so that's how we'll choose them. And you'll be spread out an hour difference, and you'll know by the end of February what time you'll be starting. After that time, we're not able to change them because of the logistics of organising the event, and you do have to start in the time that you've been honoured. And I will just say, Trailwalker, you've got 36 hours to complete it, so really, whether you start at 6:30 in the morning or at 10:30 in the morning, it is only 4 hours difference, and you're in it for the long run for 36 hours. So just bear that in mind.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we've only got time for one more question. So there's a very specific question here about how to tape your feet, but I think maybe if we make it a bit more generic on how to protect your feet. And Jonathan, do you want to add anything to do with how to protect your feet?
Yeah, there's some videos on the site that are very good at showing you how to tape your feet. And as I said earlier, it's a question of what works for you. Some people tape their feet, with quite a lot of tape. I just put a bit around my heels and the side of my foot because I know that's where I get blisters, and there's lots of combinations in between. So the main thing is to have a look at the video, try it out on a practice walk and see what works. But do take care in taping your feet, because if you do it too quickly and you get edges or it starts to curl up when you're walking, that's almost worse than not having the tape in the first place. So have a look at the videos, they're pretty good.
Thank you. And also, on that note, we've got Paddy Palin preparation nights that are going on from Wednesday of next week, one of which includes podiatry, and that session will be repeated, so that will be more specific, and feel free to come along to those sessions, they are free. There will also be a nutrition night where a dietitian is going to speak to you about training food and also food out on the trail itself. And a gear night and a physio night, so feel free to hop on the website and come along to those sessions and you'll find out a lot more about the technical aspects. Great, alright, so we're all done, and if you would like to drop in your target upgrade forms and go into the draw for $400, pop them in the bucket at the back. Otherwise, it's really great to see all your faces, and me and the team will see you on the trail. Thank you.